listeners, to another episode of Inner Peace, Better Health, the podcast where we explore the deep connection between our mental well being and our physical health. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving into a very powerful and deeply personal story about overcoming injuries, addiction, and finding true healing. My guest today is Josh Flower, someone who has walked through incredible adversity, facing severe injuries, battling addiction, and ultimately rebuilding his life with a focus on mindfulness, health, and inner peace. Listeners, his journey is one of resilience, and I'm very confident his story will resonate with so many of you who are listening today to this episode. So, with that, Josh, welcome to the show, and I'm so glad to have you here today with us.
Sana, thank you for that lovely introduction. It's my pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Josh, of course, I mean, in my all of my shows, it's a ritual to have let my guest share their personal journey with all of our listeners. So, please, over to you.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. And yes, my story is an interesting one. I think, like a lot of people, I had a very typical upbringing, happy family life. But then as a young adult, I injured my back really like a terrible injury. I herniated two discs in my back. And that caused a spiral of challenges that I dealt with for years and, in fact, decades. So, um, this back injury prevented me from playing most sports. It stopped me from playing with my kids when they were little.
Mhm.
And it led to all sorts of other challenges. I wasn't able to work out or keep myself in any sort of good shape at the gym. And really, it led me to reach to substances like alcohol and drugs to numb the pain and also give me, some form of satisfaction. And so that's the life that I lived for close to 30 years until I was finally able to turn the corner on it.
Mm-hmm. That's. Thank you so much for sharing that, Josh. And I know that injuries can be life altering, not just physically but mentally as well. And
Indeed.
how exactly it impacted your identity and sense of self?
That's a really great question because I was always a person that was sporty. I played sports growing up and I love to work out as well. So when this began to happen to me, that was one of the biggest challenges was coming to grips with the fact that things would need to change. I'd have to stop playing so many of the sports that I loved.
Mhm.
And I would keep trying to get back in the gym. And I think for any of your listeners that have had chronic injuries, maybe it's a knee or a back, a shoulder, something like that. You keep you keep trying, right? You keep coming back into the gym and trying again, but over and over and over, my back would go out. And so really my identity shifted to someone that was searching for answers and searching for a solution. And I spent years and years trying to find different physiotherapists and osteopaths and speaking with surgeons and doctors to see if anyone could really help me. And so that became my identity, really. But I think you could probably relate, Sana, that when we're not able to live in the way that we want or live healthy lives, often we'll seek relief in whatever form that we can find it. So, when I was a younger man, I would be more active and exercise to get that relief. But dealing with this condition led me to, drugs, alcohol, and other forms of distraction so that I could really try and enjoy myself. And I think it's important to remember that when people are reaching for addictive substances, often they're trying to self-soothe. There's some sort of an issue there, a mental or emotional issue that these substances give us some relief from. And so that became a big part of my story, over the last many years of my life.
Mm. Great, great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Josh. I think it really, really requires an insurmountable amount of courage, vulnerability to acknowledge that, yes, of course, I completely agree with you that, in these kind of times when you don't feel like yourself, it's actually natural to resort to different means. Uh, but I think the most interesting part of your journey probably should be the healing journey. And uh, before that, I just want to understand from you, Josh. So, um, in this journey, in this phase, when you went from being active and strong to suddenly feeling limited, did you struggle with feelings of frustration or maybe even grief over what you lost?
It's a good question. I really like your question, Sana. And I guess it took some time for the grief to set in because I think, like anybody, when we hurt ourselves, like assuming it's not a life afflicting injury, like becoming paralyzed or something like that, or losing a limb. So I always felt confident that I would be able to overcome the issue. You know, people hurt their backs or they hurt different joints all the time. And I just figured, hey, I'll work with a physiotherapist, I'll get
Mhm,
stronger, I'll gradually return to my regular life, and then everything will be fine.
mhm,
But over years and years of making moderate gains, and improvements, and this is what would happen. I would find a new therapist. If it didn't work, I would go on and find someone else. But often I would find people that could help me to a degree. And so I would get optimistic only to be let down at some point. Um, so yes, you've really hit the nail on the head. Eventually, frustration became one of the key feelings that I had on an ongoing basis. And
mhm,
almost like despair, like where you just are thinking, this is never going to get better. And I'll tell you, like when that was at its worst,
mhm,
I went for a period of time, probably about a year and a half, 2 years, where I was unable to sleep in a bed. Um, because any sort of a soft surface would cause my discs and my vertebrae to move,
yeah.
and it would cause this issue. And
Mm,
so I slept on the hardest surfaces possible, and for almost 2 years, sleeping just on the floor at the foot of of my bed that I shared with my wife.
uh-huh.
So yeah, I definitely felt feelings of major frustration. And if there's something that I could share with your listeners, it's that the key is to, regardless of how frustrated you're getting, there has to be an element of hope and belief that if you keep searching, if you keep trying, you will be able to find answers. And so I carried that with me, Sada. I felt frustrated. I felt feelings of despair, but I assumed that if I just kept searching and never gave up, maybe, just maybe, I would be able to find, solution.
Because uh, I think I think that's kind of your inner self or your higher self giving you the hope that even if your body, your mind is struggling, um, there is still a hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you need to figure out your journey. You cannot give up. So that's a great point you made, Josh.
Well, and Sana, the other piece to it, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about the healing side of things, but
Mhm,
what I can say, and the giveaway, I guess, to your audience is that I have been able to heal. But um now looking back on those years of struggle, I realize that in a sense they were a gift because they did teach me how to persevere, how to so many lessons, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, in the
mhm,
flow of this conversation. But at the time, I thought nothing good could possibly come of this pain and discomfort and inconvenience that I'm dealing with. But I later learned that um, the worst situations oftentimes teach us the most.
Yes. True. Couldn't agree with you more. Also, Josh, I mean, pain. Let's if we talk about pain to addiction, and whether physical or emotional, it can really push us toward unhealthy coping mechanisms, as you mentioned in the initial part of the conversation. Um, so painkillers or other substances, they kind of become a way to escape. Drinking, alcohol, cigarettes, smoking, and I mean, there are a lot of ways to. How exactly it spiraled for you, and how soon did you realize that? I mean, did it take a lot of time for you, or you were consciously getting into that vicious loop?
Another great question. So I first noticed, I think like a lot of young people, I had dabbled with different substances recreationally.
Mhm.
And so you begin to get a sense that some of these things have addictive properties, and you hear about friends that maybe go a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Um, I had a different reason that I was in the hospital as a younger man, and I did experience addiction to painkillers.
Mhm.
And I remember coming off of that, and I was able to, but it was really uncomfortable. And so that was my first real taste of um, having a physical addiction.
Mhm.
For me, you really touched on something. For me, it was more of a psychological or emotional addiction that I felt. I would not characterize myself as an alcoholic or, um, you know, someone that was hooked on drugs per se, but I was hooked on the relief that they gave me from the stresses of my regular life, which a big part of that stress was my physical challenges. There were other um, stressors in my life. Like I've been in the sales. I've been a salesperson for 25 years. A
Wow.
lot of stress in that sort of
Yes.
a
Yes.
position.
Of course.
There's a lot of expectation, and so I had a lot of stressful things in my life.
Uh-huh.
But these substances offered me an ability to check out of those parts of my life for a brief moment in time. And you said that it's escapism is what it is. And then how you know that your escapes are a problem is if there are negative repercussions from that, like to your health or to your performance, or if there are feelings of regret. And I had all of those things, but I did a really good job of ignoring them for many, many years.
Ah, thank you for being raw and frank, Josh. I mean, once again, appreciate your courage because it really does take a lot of courage to share that. Also, um, if we talk about your healing journey, so I think the first step to begin with is the self realization, having that self awareness that now this is the time that I should embark on the journey of healing. And when I mention about self awareness, then mindfulness comes into the picture. So, one of the things that I love about your story is that you didn't just recover, you completely transformed the way you live. And that's it's a big change. It takes a lot of time, courage, consistency, discipline. So, if I specifically ask, how has mindfulness played a role in your healing? How exactly it all happened for you?
You bet. So, yeah, it's a very deep question. And you're right. I went through, and I think for most people, turning their lives around does require almost like an attitude of transformation. Like you can make minor adjustments to your life, but if you feel that you're on the wrong path, considering total transformation, I think um is the way that you've got to look at it. So if you're not happy with something about your life, don't kid yourself into thinking that just few minor tweaks here and there will change things. You've got to switch your entire outlook on life. And I'll tell you how mindfulness played a role in this for me. I was under the impression throughout my life that really the goal was to seek out the maximum amount of pleasure, satisfaction, and comfort. And so my entire life was geared around trying to alleviate my stress with pleasure and comfort. So I would view part of my life as stressful, dealing with my back condition, dealing with my pain, dealing with the stress of my job, dealing with the stress of my responsibilities with a young family. And then the objective was to escape that stress. And the way to do that was through pleasure and comfort. And so, how mindfulness really worked for me was my commitment to wanting to get in touch with myself and really try and understand, is the path I'm on bringing me the satisfaction that I'm looking for? And realizing at some point in my mid 40s, and just so you're aware, I'm 51 years old now, but it was in my mid 40s where I realized I don't think satisfying myself is working. And so if it's not working, what is the answer? What is going to bring me the satisfaction that I want? And I realized that it was, and it sounds maybe a bit corny, but it is implementing healthy habits, habits that are life affirming and support our growth. That's the secret. And the issue with that is it's almost the opposite of pleasure and comfort seeking. And so it was a major paradigm shift. And I can explain a little bit more about that journey, but let me pause there and just see if that was clear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And please go ahead, Josh. I think our listeners would like to know.
So, and again, throughout my 20s, my 30s, and even into my 40s, this was the objective. After a long week, it was beers with friends or with my wife. After a long day, it was smoking weed before bed. It was using things like pornography. It was going out to, nightlife, things of this nature. And it was almost like I could never fully satisfy myself with these pursuits. And the regret came in the form of feelings of guilt and shame, not feeling like I was living up to my potential, believing that I could be a better version of myself than was looking back at me in the mirror. And so I thought a lot about this and I read books and I sought out mentors, online mentors, coaches, and eventually realized that the key to my salvation was eliminating the things that I regretted. And so, a sedentary lifestyle, one in pursuit of pleasures, had to go. And so, overnight sauna, I decided to go sober, drop all the substances. I decided to um, switch my diet. And as fate would have it, I found a physiotherapist that was able to help me make real and dramatic progress on my back condition after 28 years. And incidentally, this physiotherapist is from India,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
yeah, I think I say this jokingly, but he may be the greatest physiotherapist in the world because I've
Oh,
seen
wow.
many, believe me.
Okay.
I've seen many in my life, but this individual helped me in 6 weeks through exercise and coming to see him, different stretches and techniques that he employed. I was able to get into the gym, and then I was able to be consistent. Weeks turned into months, and now it's been approaching 2 years since I've had my last issue with my back. So
Okay.
everything came together. And it's crazy, Santa. It came together when I made the decision to turn my life around.
Mm.
Um, And as I said, it was the implementation of a healthy lifestyle that did it for me. But here's the thing that everybody should know: the pathway to your contentedness and happiness is actually doing the difficult things that build you. And so in the moment, it's not pleasurable. The things you have to choose to do are not pleasurable or enjoyable, but they lead to higher degrees of pleasure and enjoyment. Whereas the path I'd been on through the first half of my life was the opposite. I was pursuing the pleasures and the comforts, and it was leaving me feeling empty and dissatisfied. So it's a bit of a it's almost like a trick life plays on us in thinking that, we need to be seeking pleasure at all times. And really, it's the opposite of that. You need to be doing the things that are difficult,
Mm.
that are going to build you.
True, true. Wow, wow, Josh, that is so so deep and so profound, and that's quite a connection in there with India. So, um,
Oh, yes, this man is a genius. I'm telling you, he is sent from the heavens. I don't know what to tell you, but this man changed my life. He changed my life.
yeah, that's interesting. Also, Josh, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Of course, your journey, it's so so inspiring. I think that's the beauty of um, the the nature or the universe, that every soul, often we talk about souls uh, as energy, and whether it's an animal or it's a plant or it's the nature or us as humans, we have been given this beautiful body and mind to inspire ourselves and others as well. And everybody has their purpose, everybody has their unique journey, and uh, similarly, I mean, you are here to inspire others as well through your journey of transformation. So, uh, I guess it's not only about personal healing, but you are also helping others to navigate through that journey, have that transformation. So, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling, whether with addiction, pain, or just feeling lost, just not able to forgive themselves, or, you know, continuously judging themselves? What would it?
So you hit on a really important point that I just want to repeat, which is that once you get on the right path in life, you know it. And how I knew it is that within about 6 months of making, the habit change in my life, I realized I need to start letting people know how important this is and how valuable this is. So I made the changes in my life in June of 2023. And by January of 2024, so about 6 months later, I started recording videos on Instagram every single day, showing people my habits, talking about why I was doing what I was doing. And a few short months later, I decided to start coaching people. And so now I have clients from around the world um, that I've worked with to help implement some or all of the healthy habits that I live my life by. And so I'm in a really good position, I think, to provide some advice to your audience.
Yeah.
You know, what I would say is, first and foremost, don't give up if you're facing challenges, whether you feel that those challenges are an affliction from the universe, like an injury, or whether it's through your own bad decisions, like substance abuse. Don't give up hope, and keep believing that you can turn the corner and fix these problems. And if you want to know what I think is the best model to fix these problems, now I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it will work. Is number one, drop the vices. So drop the alcohol, drop the drugs, drop the substances, cigarettes, whatever your vice is, get rid of that. That's number one. Number two, set your alarm for a little bit earlier than is comfortable for you. Number three, spend some time each morning working on yourself. And what I recommend is meditate, quiet your mind, and simply ask the universe for guidance on your regrets. Just ask, what do I regret from yesterday? And I promise you, it's God, it's the universe, it's divinity will begin to share the secrets with you about the things, the areas that you're making mistakes in your life. And then your job, your goal today is to take that lesson and try and not make the same mistake. Um, so that would be my advice. And then there are a few other healthy habits I would recommend. You need to start exercising regularly because as you implement that healthy habit and start changing your body, your mind will change. It will improve. You will grow in confidence. You'll feel better. You'll look better. Um, and you want to fix your diet as well.
Yeah.
So these are all the things that I coach my clients on. It's about the early morning wake up, the morning reflection, the workout, the diet, dropping the vices, and working every day on your mindset.
Great. And great, Josh. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us. And if anyone wants to connect with you or learn more about your work, where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for that. And let me say one other thing about the coaching model. The reason that I got into coaching, I think everybody listening today, especially your audience, Anna, they know the value of making good choices and having a healthy lifestyle. We all know what to do. The problem is in actually doing it. This is where people struggle, implementing the healthy diet, stopping with the alcohol abuse, you know, introducing a new workout program. So, this is the value that a coach can bring because once you invest your money in working with a coach, you are committing to the process at a higher level than if you just make promises to yourself. Um, and so, the primary function I provide in my clients' lives is accountability, where we will talk about the goals that they set for themselves and they will have a partner that will help them stay on track even when they don't want to. So it's extremely valuable. And if people want to learn more about me or about this service that I offer, there's two places I'm going to recommend. The first is my website, which is very simple to remember. It's just joshflower.com. And the second is my Instagram page, which is instagram.com/, Josh Flower, and then the number one. That's the place to go if you want to see my program in action. I make videos every single day so people can see me waking up very early and going to the gym and reflecting every morning and the foods that I've been eating. I'm sharing all of these details on Instagram, Sana.
Beautiful. We'll have all the details mentioned. And to all of our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, know that healing is possible no matter how dark things feel right now. And we'll have all the details to connect with Josh mentioned in the show notes. And please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. This is Inner Peace, Better Health, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.